Welcome back. We've took a break, let the motor dry overnight, and now we're going to put it back together. So let's get to it. We already know the comm is good. I've got the spacers back on. I did put the motor case together just to see how it went. It is a little bit more fiddly with the insulation, so hopefully I won't struggle too much as we're doing it. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to put the brush housings back in the machine. And I just want to make sure I've got it lined up properly. Okay, that's the way it goes. I might have to change that first one again, because as you can see I've got it going forwards and it needs to be to the side. So, not a big deal. Just take your time. Hopefully you're not in a hurry when you do this. And sometimes it's easier to feel without looking than it is to try to look at it and do it. Okay, let's see. If I go that way. Okay, can you see what I did wrong? You know, this coil has to be oriented like this. This has to be, that works. There we go. Like that. So, just bend them out of the way. I can put the field coil together. Make sure my wires are tucked out of the way in there so they don't hit anything. And then we set our comm in. Only thing I'm going to do before, I know these don't need to be greased, but I'm just going to put a dab. Tiny, tiny, tiny dab in there. And look, then I'm going to put my comm in. Or my armature with the comm attached. And it doesn't hit anything. You can see I got a little bit of grease out. And now what we're going to do, we've got to put our sleeve on, and then we've got to feed the wires through this wider slot. Motor's going to sit like this on the machine, so we want the S out. And when you do it, try to get the insulation where it's not really sticking out. Because that will just make it a little bit harder when you put the other half on. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm just going to put a small dab. Nothing much at all. And we're going to put it together. We're going to feed the wires through. And then we're going to try to slide the armature over just like that. That went easier than I thought it would. I just give it a spin to see how it looks. And we're going to put some screws in. My steel wool, my 2 motor screws. There we go. And you may have to wiggle the motor a smidge, I'm not sure. We're going to find out. And you can see I'm not using a big screwdriver. We're going into a plastic housing, and plastic will strip a lot easier than the aluminum. So there is no need for a large screwdriver. Plus, in my opinion, they're a little bit unwieldy. So if I can get away with a shorter one, I will. And you can see I'm not putting a lot of torque on it. There isn't a need. Okay, that's done. And now what we're going to do, we're going to wipe the motor down. I've got one more thing too while I'm here, because I'm going to be using it. Right here, you can see I've got the oil from the can inside the bottle. I put kerosene in here because I go through so much kerosene in a little bottle. That's just easier for me. For the bottles in this large container of oil was $10. I just put a little bit of kerosene on my Q-tip, and I tested this on a safe spot, so you know it works and it doesn't hurt the finish. You know, I wouldn't recommend jumping into this with kerosene right off the bat until you test something on your machine to make sure it doesn't harm anything, but I didn't see anything that was the matter. So I'm just wiping everything off to get the stains off. And we're going to put the brushes back in too. Sometimes you have to put a little bit of effort into these when you have the stain. But it comes off pretty good. Put a little more kerosene on another one. And we'll do the areas I missed. And do you have to use Q-tips on this? Heck no. You can use a rag. You know, I just have the Q-tips, and it's easier to throw those away, and I don't have that kerosene. Well, this stuff is pretty good. It doesn't really smell like kerosene too bad because it's a non-odor, and it's only $2 more at Tractor Supply than actual kerosene. So I'm just going to wipe this off. If I was real good, I'd have a pair of gator clips, you know, hooked to a pedal, and I could test the motor out here. I'm not that good. So we're going to wait. We're going to hook it up. We'll test it, and we'll see. And what's interesting with this one, if you look right here, you can see where it's been touched up with paint. which I thought was interesting. Again, right here. And the interesting, it's kind of neat. Okay, now we're going to put the brushes back in. I'm just going to wipe them down with the non-kerosene side. I've wiped them down already. There's pretty good length to them, so I don't see an issue with putting them back in. The one thing I will show you is on this one, if you can see it, right here, you can see where it's kind of worn, and there's a little groove, and I can feel it. I'm hoping you can see it. And the other brush has started it too, a little bit. And that's kind of strange, because the wear on that one is not in the direction of the com's travel. It's circling this way, but the wear is on the side. Let's look at the other one, because I didn't pay attention. I didn't notice it. This one too is real noticeable. And again, the com is circling like this, and the wear pattern is like it was shucking back and forth here. So I don't know. Again, you want to take that concave edge and mate it to your brush, to the com, so that it rotates in the concave area. If you put it in this way, it'll still work, but it's going to take longer for the brushes to seat. You won't get optimum power or speed because it won't be contacting the com to transmit the electricity at its most, at its full efficiency. So I'm just trying to decide which way I want to put the brush in. If I want to have that worn spot facing this way or this way. I'm going to put them in towards the back of the motor. You want to make sure they go in and out free. If they're stiff, find out what's wrong. The cat. Be gentle with these. You'll just see me take a screwdriver and lightly give it a test. I had it all the way in with my fingers, so. And there's the wear pattern I'm going to put to the back. I'm checking the movement of the brushes in the housing. And you'll see that the cap has a little indent for the spring to go in. I'm just screwing it in. Again, it went in finger tight. And I just checked it with the screwdriver. It was tight from my fingers. So this is done for right now. We're going to wait. We got to clean the machine. And then we're going to go to assembly. Kind of messy here, I know. Okay. There we go. Hopefully you can see that pretty good. You can see how dirty that is. When I was polishing and cleaning all the rest of it, I couldn't get to this area because the motor was there. So I'm just going to use the same thing I did before. Take my Q-tip in with some kerosene and just clean. And you can use whatever you choose. Okay? If you feel better with Gojo or whatever your secret sauce is, go with it. Because if it works for you and you get good results, that's all that matters.
Without pumice.
Yeah, without pumice, thank you, honey. You don't want pumice in the hand cleaner because that wouldn't be too good at all. It would leave you a nice bunch of scratches. Good for cleaning your hands, not good for machines. And then I'm just going to take a clean side of the Q-tip, kind of get the, grunge off. And you could use a rag again. Doesn't matter what, how you use it. Don't go back in because you can see a couple spots here. Kerosene. And, give it a little bit of time, This is going to take a little bit to get some of this gunk off. But you've seen what I've done here a little bit. I'm just going to do the rest of this area, and there's no point in you sitting here watching me do it. I'm going to cut that out, and then I'll come back when I've got this clean and we're ready to put the motor in. Welcome back. I've got the motor area cleaned up. As you can see, it's clean. And you can see the amount of Q-tips I used to do it. I go through a lot of Q-tips. Now, we're going to put the motor on. Doesn't that sound fun? And again, we're going to tip. Let me put the cap on my kerosene. We're going to tip the sewing machine on its light housing area, and that will expose the bottom to us to get the motor started. And then we may flip it the other way just for ease. There's one. Come on now. One just curled up. These are modern coated wires. They're a little bit more flexible than the older cloth coated, which is good because I can stuff the wires back into the area. And I'm just going to slide it in. Stand it back up so I can put the motor mount screw in. Oh, one thing I want to show you too. They did put a brass insert into the motor housing so you can tighten it up a little bit. If that brass insert wasn't there, it'd be very easy to take this screw and strip it out. It's just called insert molding. Actually a fun process how it's done. It kind of makes me wonder how they did it back in the day. When we did it, it was automated. There were robots that would place the inserts in the mold, and then the mold would cycle and the plastic would be injected over it. And what's fun with this plastic, like the motor housing, I would almost guarantee you it's ABS. You won't find any recycling marks on it because that wasn't thought of. But I will tell you one thing, ABS is a very good material, and they didn't waste it. They would take the runners and other parts and grind them back up and feed it back through the material in the next batch of material that was going to be molded. So there was very little waste. And there still is. ABS is a very good material. All I'm doing is twisting the wires together. And then we're going to go through and put the caps on. Okay, enough of the fun. Let's get back to this. This service manual is free on my group page. And like I said, if you go to Featherweight Repainting and Repair on Facebook, you can download this manual for free. And this manual is dynamite. It tells you how to adjust everything, how to change parts, troubleshooting even. And what we're going to use right now is the wiring diagram. You might not be familiar with, but they're pretty straightforward. I hope this is in the picture. This is a plugged one. This one is the K7. And if you look at it, you'll see the resistor stack here on the foot controller. The lines coming in, this is where your plug will be. Again, your motor, your light, the light switch. So what you want to do is follow one of the lead lines coming from the plug. You'll see it come down here and you'll see it make that little kind of half circle. What that means is that it's just going by this wire. You're not hooking these wires together or anything. It's just a way of saying, look, this wire's going over it, not touching it again. This same thing with this wire. So then it comes up and you can see a bullet connector right here, but you can see 3 wires coming into this one. One of the wires is going out and to one side of the switch. And this is just telling you that it's a switch. It's just an open closed circuit. When you take the switch and it comes down and makes contact, it's a closed circuit and your light comes on. The other side of that will go to the motor. Then we come down to the other line on your plug that goes into the wall. We'll follow it out. Again, you can see it jumps over these 2 wires and it comes up to a butt connector, and you'll see 2 wires coming into it. One of the wires is coming down from your light, and that is your light circuit, okay, with the 2 leads coming in, closed, open, and completing that circuit. The other wire, you can see it comes out, jumps over these 2 wires, jumps over this wire, and it comes down to your foot pedal, okay? Goes through the foot pedal, through the carbon, and everything comes out, and it goes up into the motor. So you can see the complete circuit here. And that's how we're going to go through and wire this motor. So we're going to set this down right here so I can reference it. I do have some butt connectors that I bought from Napa today when I was going down to buy some paint. Kind of expensive compared to what I bought that are being shipped in. But one of those things of, let's get it here, and they had them, so I paid a little bit more and bought them. Okay, let's trace out our wires here so we know which is which. Okay, this wire right here is the plug. So what you can do, you can see it's coming through a circuit here, through a grommet. and they've got 2 wire keepers right here and here. Easiest way there is just push the wire and pull it and just follow it down. And that is the wire coming in from the plug. So we're going to set that, if we can, right here. This wire is the one from the motor. This one is the one from the light. And this one, I just want to make sure, yep, this one is from the foot control. So we're going to hook it up. So my line coming in hooks to my light switch, my motor. So we're going to take one of these and we're going to take a light switch wire, boom, and we're going to take a motor wire. And you'll notice all these wires are black, and they're not marked. You may hear some people say, well, you've got to move this wire to this one. Well, let me tell you something. On the light, as an example, all you're doing is closing and opening a circuit. And AC stands for alternating current. The current flows in one line and then it flows in the other line. So if you hook your motor up, it doesn't matter which wire you put where, it's always going to spin the way it's supposed to. If we're talking a DC motor, then it makes a difference because the current is always flowing in one direction and your motor will spin backwards. Trust me, I know in RC racing. If you didn't hook your motor up right, it would go backwards. And give those a tug to make sure they're hooked properly. We've got the light here. We've got our power wire coming in. So we've got to hit one of our switches. And motor. That's the motor wire that we hit. Okay. And this kind of is a little bit of a rat's nest.
It just went off. Your GoPro just went off.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to crimp this. Then we're going to take a break and find out what went wrong with my GoPro. Okay, we're going to take a break and we'll fix the GoPro and we'll come right back. Motor. Switch. And power. The other goes from the switch to the other wire on the light. pedal to the motor. That's our last wire we've got to connect up. Okay, we're all wired up. Now I'm going to put the wires back in where they belong. This is kind of strange on this machine. You just kind of mash them in there. And yes, I did say mash. My wife and I get in arguments about mash ain't a word. If you're in the South, it is. If you're in the North, it isn't. The only thing you have in the North is mashed potatoes.
You mash buttons around.
Yeah, I'm sure
and you push
do.
a buggy too.
Yeah. Okay, we're good there. Now we're going to flip it back upright. Set our manual to the side. And clear this out of the way a smidge. And as you'll remember, this cord does have a little bit of a bare spot. I'm going to try to get close so you can see it. But the wire's not compromised. I'm going to try something a little different. Don't know if it'll work, but I'm just going to say, because it doesn't hurt. It's called liquid tape. And I'll show it to you right here. I'm just kind of curious if it'll, seal it. And don't know, but we're going to try it. Excuse me. I'm going to plug this in now. Light off. Oh, good. Now, ooh, I got another thing I have to cover. My pedal. I haven't gone through the pedal yet, but let's give it a shot. Brushes are seating, it's sounding better. I'm not smelling anything. We'll let it run a little bit. It's picking up speed as the brushes are sitting on the column. Slow movement, faster, 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 wide open. go. Light off. We'll see. I have a pulley coming in. I'll bring you back as soon as my pulley comes in, and we're going to put the pulley on and see how everything works together. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one.